This week we will be having a series of reflections to do with the Holy Spirit. Who is the Holy Spirit? What the Holy Spirit does, and how we can be filled with the Holy Spirit. It's interesting because we mentioned this, the Holy Spirit gets mentioned in the Bible, we talk about it in church, but how much do we really know about the Holy Spirit? How it came about, what the Holy Spirit does, and of course how we can be filled with the Holy Spirit. Sometimes the Holy Spirit can be seen as just something a bit freaky, something we don't really want to touch or talk about. But we can be encouraged that the Holy Spirit, not only is it powerful, but it brings us good things that God has for us when we grow, when the Holy Spirit is in us. So let's have a Bible reading now, which is taken from Acts chapter 2. It's from a slightly different version of the Bible, hopefully quite a reader-friendly one, about what happened at Pentecost with the coming of the Holy Spirit.
Jesus' friends could hardly believe that he was alive again, so he showed them the nail marks in his hands and his feet. One day he rose up into the sky and disappeared in a cloud. He went back to his Father in heaven. Someday he will come back to earth again. After Jesus had gone to heaven, his friends had a big meeting. Suddenly there was a loud noise. Little flames of fire sat on their heads, but the fire didn't burn them. God's Holy Spirit came to live in their hearts. The Holy Spirit helps us believe in Jesus.
For us as Christians, we don't just see the Holy Spirit as this optional extra that we can embrace if we like, but actually something which is essential to our faith. We talk about the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. And Pentecost, and Pentecost Sunday is this coming Sunday, the 5th of June. We remember the Holy Spirit, the coming of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. But this isn't just something newer, which just came about in the New Testament. As we'll hear now, right at the beginning of the Bible, God's Spirit was said to be there.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters.
So we see right at the start of the Bible how God's Spirit is mentioned. And it also gets mentioned here through the Old Testament, where you can think of Gideon in Judges chapter 6:34. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon. And also for Samson in Judges 13:25. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him. God's Spirit is also said to have helped people prophesy in the Old Testament. We can think of those like Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Joel. And also at the birth of Jesus, those around him were filled with God's Spirit. And as he began to teach, he was filled with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit transforms lives, changes us, changes our attitudes, changes our way of living. The Holy Spirit wants to come and fill us. For us to be filled with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit gives freedom. Freedom to break habits and addictions and strongholds and break free from those things which hold us back. The Holy Spirit is described as a counselor, a helper, a gift giver, and a guide. Jesus says in John's Gospel, but the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, will come, telling his disciples of what lay ahead. The Holy Spirit will soften our hearts, give us a desire to love others. It's not just about what we feel, but it makes a difference. The Holy Spirit comes into our lives and makes a difference. This would be prophesied right back in the Old Testament by the prophet Joel in Joel chapter 2.
Afterward, I will pour out my Spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. Even my servants, both men and women. I will pour out my Spirit in those days. I will show wonders in the heavens, and on the earth blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And everyone who calls the name of the Lord will be saved. For on Mount Zion in Jerusalem there will be deliverance, as the Lord has said, among the servants whom the Lord has called.
The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God."
When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit.
John answered them all, "I baptize you with water, but one more powerful than I will come, the thongs of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire."
The Holy Spirit wants to drench us, to be filled and overflowing with the Holy Spirit. That's what the Holy Spirit wants to do, to come into our lives. The Holy Spirit who helps us and guides us, helps us on our journey, on our Christian walk. Jesus says to his disciples in Acts chapter 1 verses 4 and 5, "Do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the gift my Father promised, which you have heard me speak about. For John baptized with water, but in a few days you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit." He's telling them to wait for the gift of the Holy Spirit to come and help them. Once Jesus has left them, they're then bringing the good news with the Holy Spirit helping them, the Holy Spirit working through them. And then in Acts chapter 1 verse 8, Jesus says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." They promise that they will receive power from the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit will work through them. So we there can think about the Holy Spirit being a counsellor, a guide, a helper, a gift giver. The Holy Spirit being so important to our Christian journey. The Holy Spirit being there alongside us. But we might ask the question, what the Holy Spirit actually does? And also, how we can be filled with the Holy Spirit ourselves. The next reflection tomorrow, we'll think about that. What does the Holy Spirit do? And then on Thursday, how we can be filled with the Holy Spirit.